for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. With another year of March Madness upon us, set to start Thursday, that's right, this Thursday, here's who we picked to win their first round matchups. That's right, this is March Madness, busted bracket first round breakdown. But first, let me remind you, my picks are based in large part on the eye test, not percentages, if ever. Y'all know how I feel about stats. So, starting with the East, we got Villanova versus Radford. And we all know how that's going to turn out. It's just something about that Illadelph style, man. We saw it a couple years ago in the tournament when the Wildcats went up against, not North Carolina, but when they went up against Buddy Hield in particular. I mean, Buddy Hield was the scoring sensation in the nation up until he ran into Villanova, and they kind of exposed him. But that's what defense first, okay, extending your ball pressure, playing at 94 feet throughout the course of a contest, and not turn it on, turn it off. That's what it can pretty much do. It can expose false scorers. I'm picking Villanova. Up next, we got Virginia Tech, Alabama. Alabama goes as Colin Sexton goes. If Colin Sexton doesn't go well, Alabama don't go well. I still kind of think to a certain degree that Avery Johnson and his guys are maybe another year or two away of making some serious noise in a tournament run. So I'm taking Virginia Tech in this one. Then we got West Virginia and Murray State. Now the Racers are interesting. But West Virginia got Bob Huggins, and they too play defense. You know, it's only a couple of hands. I can name on one hand a couple of teams who play with a balance on both ends of the floor. And of those 5 teams, I would rank in order, and I'm not going to do it right here. I'm just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which of those 5 play that defense or play that balance better than the other? You know, the first versus the second, so on and so forth. West Virginia is on the defensive end of the floor. They make you work. They just do. Now, their offense, at times, they struggle to score. So the games the outcomes, the final score can look a lot closer than they should. But you're gonna have your hands full playing with them on the, playing against them on the defensive side. And I don't see Murray State doing that. Then we have Wichita State and Marshall. Kudos to Marshall. I believe this is their first time ever, or maybe first time in some years getting into the tournament. But the Wichita State Shockers, even though they're not what they were maybe a few years ago, they're still better than Marshall. So I'm taking the Shockers in that one. Then we slide on down to Florida versus St. Bonaventure, the Bonnies for short, who beat UCLA in one of the first 4 play-ins the other day, which I'm shocked that UCLA, that's like a blue blood name, you know what I mean? That's like Alabama not making the college football playoff or something almost. But anyway, the Bonnies beat UCLA, and they go up against Florida. And I think that for the Bonnies or the Bonaventurans, that that was their first win and their last win, because they don't have enough to deal with Florida. You know, Florida is a big time program. They got a couple championships in their history. Even though they no longer have Billy Donovan, they still got more than enough to beat the Bonnies. Then we slide on down to Texas Tech and Stephen F. Austin. Texas Tech is iffy. Now, I don't know how much stock you all place, in seedings. I do. I'm 50-50. Like, Texas Tech is a 3 and Stephen F. Austin is a 4. But we've seen in, years past these double-digit seeds, beating some of these lower seeds. I'm not so sure it happens here, because Texas Tech, they are gritty and they're constant. But I've seen them have, bad shot selections on the offensive end and, defensive breakdowns at critical times, on the defensive end. So, Stephen F. Austin, if they're at a point or in a position in the game where they're in position, to take advantage of one of those untimely miscues on the part of Texas Tech, who knows? But I'm taking the Texas Tech Red Raiders in that. Then we go on down to Arkansas and Butler. Now, I'm a Razorback fan when it comes to college basketball. Since the days of Nolan Richardson and that 40 Minutes of Hell, and I can't tell you, I still relish the fact that the 94 team beat none other than the Duke Krzyzewskis for the national championship. Scotty Thurman, Corey Beck, Corliss Williamson, big man in the middle at 6'9". But I digress. They're going up against Butler. And Butler is not what Butler was when Brad Stevens was there, but they're still in the conversation. And to be honest with you, I'm taking Butler in this one because Butler is one of those teams maybe right outside of my top 5 and saying that, they play with balance. They have enough of a 94 feet mentality to beat Arkansas. Arkansas's shots come primarily from 3, like most teams, now in college and anywhere else you're looking at. They run their offense, out on the perimeter. They get inside every now and again, but when they get inside, they struggle to do so at times. So I'm taking Butler in this one. Then you got Purdue against Cal State Fullerton. We already know that's, what's already understood need not be explained. Purdue, I think, wins that in a landslide. But I will say going forward, while the Boilermakers are built to maybe get to a Final Four, their style of play at times, is a head scratcher, especially from their big man, Haas. I don't know his first name, but Haas. Now, he's a traditional big, and you can throw the ball into him. But I've noticed at times, if the ball is not placed, I don't want to say perfectly, but just right, he has trouble on the catch. So anything kind of like at his waist or below his waist, if you have to pick it up off a bounce pass or whatever, he has trouble, going from that point up. He gets himself caught up, and he's too big for that. And I've seen the ball go off his hands, and out of bounds, where he could have, he should have caught it cleanly, and he just doesn't. So he's big, but he doesn't play with the strength that his size would suggest. But they'll win, they'll beat Cal State Fullerton. But I would say I wouldn't be surprised if they, didn't get as far as most folks who picked them thought they might. Then we go down to the Midwest, where you got Clemson at New Mexico State. This is a toss-up. These teams, despite the seeding, which Clemson is 5 and New Mexico State is 12, to me, and I've seen both these teams play as well, I don't see that much difference in the style of play from either. Like I said, this is a toss-up. If I had to choose, it would be New Mexico State. Yeah, it would be New Mexico State. I know Clemson is the more of the household name in this matchup, but I would take New Mexico State. They spread you out pretty good on offense, and they might be able to do that with Clemson. Then we get to Auburn and Charleston. I know Charles Barkley has been singing the praises of his Auburn Tigers. And against Charleston, those praises will continue. Auburn they don't score a lot, and they are a 4 seed. And I don't know if I'm surprised by that or not, but haven't seen them as much as I have some other teams, but I've seen enough of sample size. But I know they'll beat Charleston. They're pretty active too on the offensive glass, but they're not as big as you. Well, I don't know. They're pretty strong. And see, I'm kind of going on about them because I'm looking, at them going forward. Yeah, and I'm not so sure that they could beat a Kansas or something like that. But, yeah, they'll definitely beat Charleston in the first round. Then we go down to TCU and Arizona State / Syracuse. Now, the Syracuse-Arizona State game has yet to be played because it is the last of the 2 remaining for the first 4 in. So, of course, whoever wins between Arizona State and Syracuse will play then TCU in the first round. But let me say this about Syracuse, and here's what I've been saying about the media. Not the media, the committee, and how when it comes to these sporting events, regardless of which one you look at, not all of these, when I say not all of them, I'm really talking about all of them. They're not completely left up to chance like the propagandists would want you to think so. Because you can't tell me there's a committee bias. I don't do that RPI, BPI, but the committee does. So based on the committee's formula, how in the world does Syracuse get in? Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, you can email the shop's fan page on Facebook at the Shop Report and let me know am I missing something here. But based again on their formula, committee's formula, Syracuse should not have got in. Why? I mean, somebody on this committee, they must really like fruit. They really must like, sun-kissed, okay? You know what I mean? Sun-kissed, right, yeah, because the Orangemen shouldn't be in. And even if they get in, they have that, I don't even want to call it vaunted, but they play a 2-3 zone. Boeheim been playing a 2-3 zone since 1755, and for the most part, it has worked and kept them in the tournament, for years and years and years and years. But this is one of those years you'd be like, wow, they just didn't have enough. They didn't play well offensively enough that they shouldn't have been in. But now that they're in, I wouldn't be surprised if they go on to beat a TCU because of how they play that 2-3 zone. The way they play it, you got to have patience, understand how to get players in and out of the middle, and you can't, attack the middle the same way each time. You got to look inside first for sure, and then look quickly out. You got to keep people, got to be parts and pieces moving on offense, to try to get that zone because they do play it well. And if they were to, match up with the TCU, actually, I'm going to pick them because of that zone. I don't know enough about TCU. I didn't get to see them maybe once or twice. If they were to win, based on the seedings, it says TCU because they're 6 and Syracuse or Arizona State would, of course, be in 11. If you're into that sort of thing again, TCU should win. But I don't know. I've seen that Syracuse zone long enough that if they get in, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat TCU. And I would pick them. I pick them to beat Arizona State, and I pick them to beat TCU. Then you got Michigan State and Bucknell. I mean, we all know Izzo always keeps a team that's going to be in the conversation of, championship, not contender, but championship winner. They've had some ups and downs, in light of the recent situation that has taken place. But these guys have still come together and, managed to put together a decent enough season. They were 29-4 on the season. And their pedigree is strong. Their resume, their tournament resume is strong enough that they will be a safe bet to at least make the Elite Eight, possibly. But, we'll do a second-round breakdown as, when the time comes. But, yes, right now they have more than enough to beat Bucknell. Then you got Rhode Island facing off against Oklahoma. Now, there was some controversy surrounding Oklahoma and whether or not if them versus Oklahoma State should have got in because of this whole thing about entire body of work, but who played better versus which team played better in the first half versus the second half, where I think Oklahoma started out strong, but Oklahoma State finished strong. So, is it it's either the first 10 or the last 10 or entire body of work, and based on the entire body of work, there are many who have been arguing that Oklahoma State should have got into the tournament as well. And it, in large part, again, we talk about committee bias. Oklahoma got in because of Trae Young. They're promoting superstars. That's what it's all about right now. But, I mean, really, does the kid who didn't win really deserve a participation trophy? And I'm not saying Oklahoma didn't deserve to get in, but, the Trae Young is being grandfathered in, and I don't know. Are you helping him in that case, or are you enabling him? I don't know. But I see Rhode Island beating Oklahoma, and not based on the seeding either, because that's who that matchup is, Oklahoma-Rhode Island. I just see Rhode Island is a little bit stronger, a little bit more battle-tested. They've had some moments where, they've had some pressure-packed moments, more so than – no, I'll say it this way. In the pressure-packed moments for this season, the entirety for both Rhode Island and Oklahoma. Rhode Island has come through more, that had risen above their pressure pack moments more so than Oklahoma. But you never know. Trae Young could get hot and they could do it. But I'm picking Rhode Island to win that one. Then last in the Midwest, you got Duke and Iona. Now, Duke, of course, is led by Grayson Allen. And we all know that he's one hip check or a foot trip away from, who knows, some sort of consequence. Now, the severity of that wouldn't be known until after the fact. But he's a ticking time bomb. He's a thug, as they like to say, about, folk, when they do that kind of stuff that he do. But they'll have no trouble with Iona. But don't get your hopes up, on them, going all the way. You know what I mean? Because really, it's that Duke name that'll go a lot farther in this year's tournament than the actual team this year. Then we slide on over to the South, and we got Virginia at UMM as in Mary, BC as in before chocolate. Now, I am not going to lie to you. I don't know who UMBC is and what it stands for, but I do know Virginia, and Virginia will win this one in a landslide. Up next, we got Creighton and Kansas State. And this was another head-scratcher because I look at their seeding. Creighton is an 8, Kansas State is a 9, but really, you could flip-flop the two. I don't think that one brings more to the table than the other, but I'll pick Creighton because I've seen more of them, and they have more overall than Kansas State does. Kansas State is one of those teams where they don't really score a lot either. And if they get kind of still, if they get bogged down on offense, it could be they could be down 3 to 1 minute and then be down 33 in the next 30 seconds. So yeah, I'm taking Creighton. I don't know what the scoring outcome will be or whatever. It might be close, but I think Creighton will win. Then you got Kentucky, a 5 seed, at Davidson, a 12 seed. Now, there's been some talk from the national pundits, and some whose opinions I, I've taken notes on, have picked Davidson to beat Kentucky. Now, we know Kentucky and their pedigree and, their blue blood and Calipari and the pipeline to the NBA, and they have, the blue chippers and they got all of that. But their style of play, to be honest with you, pales in comparison to Davidson. Now, we all know Steph Curry's roots lie there and so on and so forth, but Davidson, and by definition, plays better basketball than Kentucky, which is the only reason, and it's a big reason, why those pundits who have picked Davidson over Kentucky in this matchup have done so. But I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I'm going to take Kentucky. I think they outlast Davidson in this one. But I would not be surprised if, as the pundits say, Davidson pulls this off. Then you got Arizona and Buffalo. I got one word for you, Ayton. Listen, DeAndre is his first name, I believe. Let me tell you something. Jay Billis, one of those college announcers. I've met him once at Tower City in Cleveland, Ohio. Real nice guy. Sat down and talked to him for about 5 or 10 minutes. We talked a little basketball. And I've seen him a few times, NC, the tournament time, a couple college games or whatever. But I don't know enough about him to say, how much weight his opinion carries, But I'd listen to it. I do. And I heard him say, and this to me was like, even for him, he said Ayton right now is an NBA Hall of Fame type player. Okay, so then when you watch the guy, and you hear that, you spend a couple years trying to, chip away at that, because that's a strong claim. But Billis staked it. But Ayton some said Melvin Bagley Jr. was, maybe a couple weeks ago, hands down number 1 pick. But I'm telling you, this Ayton dude is the number 1 pick coming out of this year's draft. If everything goes as it should, he the number 1 pick, hands down. He's that good, and he could do for this year's Arizona team what Melo did for Syracuse in setting the table. Well, Melo set the table in the first half, and then Hakeem Work and the rest of them cats in the second half, took it from there. But this dude could put this team on his back, and they could win it all. That's how good this cat is. So I'm taking Arizona over 13th ranked Buffalo. Poor Buffalo. Maybe if they add a different color to the uniforms, you know what I mean, it might, strike a little fear in somebody. You know what I'm saying? And kudos to them for getting here. But no, Buffalo, no, not over Arizona. Then you got Miami, Florida at Loyola Chicago. I'm a Miami Hurricane football fan. I have to always point that out. But not really a Larinaga or Miami basketball fan. And I wouldn't be surprised if Loyola Chicago beats them because really, to tell you the truth, I haven't seen much from Miami that would say otherwise. And I don't know much about Loyola Chicago, but they have been in the tournament conversation before. And, I've seen teams that they've played, and the guys on the bench, folks got their fingers crossed. So you tell me. But I'm going to take Loyola Chicago, believe it or not, in the upset. Them, of course, being an 11 seed and Miami being a 6. Then you got Tennessee versus Wright State. Good to see Tennessee, back in the thick of it. They finished the season at 25-8. Them being a 3 seed might be indicative of the season that that actually might be substantive. You know what I mean? The season that they had, them being a 3 seed. I think that's a solid 3. And Wright State being a 14 is also indicative. I see Tennessee winning that one easily by double digits. Then to round out the South, we got Nevada at Texas. Shaka Smart's Longhorns and their big man, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name, Obamanu or something like that. Forgive me. One of y'all want to put a couple of dollars in the jar because I messed that up. So be it. I'll match whatever you donate up to $9.17. But Texas will beat Nevada. Now, Texas struggled on the year. And Nevada, they don't quit. Let me put it that way. They are constant as well. When they get up and down, they put pressure on you. They do. They put pressure, especially on the defensive end. And I say that for Texas, they too have to play defense, in the backcourt. Otherwise, the Obamanu, I hate even trying that. Sounds like I'm about to bite my tongue. Feels like I'm about to bite my tongue. But he's their rim protector, so to speak, on the defensive end. Now, here's the killer part. If Nevada gets him in foul trouble and they take advantage of his absence, they could win. But I'm going to pick Texas because they should win. And it's about time for them should win. They should actually win. So, yeah, I'm going to take Texas. Then you got Cincinnati at Georgia State. Cincinnati, and I'm telling you, Bob Huggins, when he coached the Bearcats, oh, man, they were, Kenyon Martin and them boys, oh, man, they could never get over that hump. But, boy, I'm trying to tell you, every game that they ever played in any tournament I ever saw was, if you had to go to the bathroom, you was holding it. Every moment was worth watching. I won't say I won't say that's the case about them now, but they do. They did get a number 2 seed, and they finished the season 30-4. So I don't know what that means going forward, but I know it means more than enough to beat Georgia State. Then in the West, you have Xavier, who, by all accounts, most people are picking them to be in the Final Four. Now, they have a pedigree as well. They got a good tournament history, tournament resume when it comes to from a historical perspective. Xavier is always strong, and I think that they were deserving of a number 1 seed. But I think that's the first time in their history they've had a number 1 seed. How far they go, because they're on the same side as who is that we got here? North Carolina, and I just don't see if things shake out, as expected. And I don't think that they will because, I'll get to them in a minute, but I'm actually leaning towards Michigan coming out of there. And I'm not saying that because I'm from Ohio. I'm saying that because I'm a basketball purist. Sorry about that. But anyway, Xavier, if things shake out, they got to hit North Carolina, and that's going to be a tough one. But, yeah, they have more than enough to beat either NCCU or other Texas Southern, who finishes out the latter portion of the first 4 play-in games. Yeah, but they'll beat whoever comes out of that. Then you got Missouri and Florida State. Now, Porter suffered a back injury earlier in the season and came back late in the season. And, of course, was doing too much. His effort was there, no question, but he was doing too much, and he looked rusty. But this guy, the pundits, are also saying, and I would say it too, he's definitely a top 5 NBA pick. The guy got inside, outside game, and he doesn't have what Ayton has in terms of maybe to the degree of being able to put the team on his back and take them, to a national championship. But he's got some ingredients or the tangibles to do so, to at least take them far. And, Florida State is Florida State. They met better at football, and that's not been, that good since Jameis Winston, than they are at basketball. They'll put up a good fight, I think, in the first half, but Missouri will run away with it because that Porter guy is he's different, too. Maybe not, again, Ayton different, but he's different. He's a top 5 NBA pick, I believe. Then you got Ohio State versus South Dakota State. The Buckeyes themselves boast a guy who maybe is not top 5 NBA or a top 5 NBA pick, but is definitely a top 10 NBA pick in my estimation, and that's Keita Bates-Diop. He still got some. He's still kind of raw, but when you're done playing this dude, win or lose, you done been in. You're gonna remember who this guy is, and that's all you can really ask for a player who, to me, is the face of this Buckeyes team. Will they have enough to beat South Dakota State? Yes, but South Dakota State is one of them 12s that. You done did. They got a tendency. They could bust your bracket early. You know what I mean? They have you putting a red X right through it before you can even take your first sip of coffee, type deal. But I don't think they'll do that against Ohio State. Not this go around. See, I'm taking the Buckeyes in that one. Then you got Gonzaga and UNC. Greenville. The UNC, I believe, is a North Carolina team. Green, I'm not sure. The Green what? The Green Wave. Green, I don't know. I know who they are. Just don't know the last name of the school. Sorry, senility. But yeah, Gonzaga should win this easy. But Gonzaga too is one of those teams that, they built a nice program. They're a mid-major who gets top major conversation, or adulation or publication. But I don't see them going far. Not this year either. They got to deal. If they were to come out, they had to deal with North Carolina a whole lot sooner than would Xavier, that's for sure. And I don't. Well, no, probably around about the same time. Yeah, if there was, I believe it's in that Elite 8. Yeah, but even still, I don't think they could beat North Carolina, but they could definitely beat UNC Green. ... Then you got Houston at San Diego State. The Cougars are impressive, and they fast, and they faster than San Diego State. Ain't no Kawhi Leonard coming through them doors to help San Diego State. Not on this one. Now, Houston, they'll get a lead, and then, like you see when you're watching NBA games, they'll slough it off, and then I don't know if they do that, on purpose or not, so we can say, yeah, let's see how many we could come back from. They be taking side bets on the sideline, but you got to be careful doing that too. But, yeah, I don't think San Diego State could do nothing with them. I'm taking the Cougars. Hakeem Olajuwon's alma mater. Then we get to Michigan and Montana. Let me tell you something about them Wolverines. I watched the Big Ten tournament in its entirety. The Michigan Wolverines, and I say this completely devoid of bias, can beat anybody in the tournament this year, including Arizona. I said can. If they were to see Arizona, could they? I don't know. Ayton is that good. But Michigan, they are my number one team when it comes to playing with balance on both sides of the ball and on both ends of the floor. Yeah, right. It's called redundancy. I said the same thing, but in two different ways, right? Yeah, on both ends of the floor. Listen, they're not the Big Ten champs this year by accident. They're not. They're not. And them two big boys they got in the middle. And I like Teskey better than I can't pronounce number 13's number for Michigan. I can't. But I can number 15 Teskey. Teskey to me is better with their starting unit than number 13, and he's the one that starts. He's not bad because he knows how to use his body on the inside, and he pretty much gets his feet in position on the defensive end. He don't hurt you, but Teskey is quicker to them spots and can score. When they play inside out, they tough to beat. And then their defense is just that Michigan brand of basketball. It's just that Big Ten brand. It's just that brand. They play it too. They play it better than anybody and probably any other team in any other conference. You know what I'm saying? They represent that conference and the pedigree of that conference and what it's supposed to mean better than anybody, in my estimation. So I got Michigan smashing Montana. And I would not be surprised if Michigan wins it all. I would not. As a matter of fact, out of all my teams, I think could win it all. And I'm not going to go through them all right here, right now, again, whatever the case may be. I'm taking Michigan. I'm not putting no money on it now. But based off the eye test, they passed the eye test immediately, just off first glance. Everybody else had to maybe step back and say, whoa, wait, what was that? I said, okay, well, and take a second look. But I don't need a second look with them. Not when they playing on all cylinders. They dangerous. Then you got Texas A&M against Providence. Providence has had some, how can you say, close games this season too, as has Texas A&M. Both are enigmas. That's the best way I can put it. And it's a toss-up. Now, I would have to, and I wish I had prior to doing this broadcast, really given some more thought to who actually might win this matchup, because this really is a head scratch. I mean, this really, this is one of them ones you had to pack a lunch, you know what I'm saying, before you're trying to decide who will win this one. But I'm going to go with Texas A&M. Most people would do so because of the seeding, because they're 7 and Providence is a 10. But I'm going to go with Texas A&M. At least, it's going to be tough though. It's going to be tough because Providence, they don't back down. They don't go away easy. You know what? No, I'm changing that. I'm going to take Providence. That's what I'm going to take. Yep, I'm taking Providence. And then last but not least, North Carolina and Lipscomb. Now, I don't know if Lipscomb is a hair care product, or a comb, no offense. I've seen them before, not in terms of, I've seen them play a game, but I've seen the name going across the bottom of the ticker every now and again when I can catch a Sports Center or I'm watching whatever, some sort of sports, something, ESPN Classic or something. I'll see their name come basketball time or, doing, college basketball season. Oh, Lipscomb beat Liberty, okay, Lipscomb. But other than that, I really don't know much about them. And after North Carolina get done, they'll soon be forgotten. No offense, Lipscomb. Or Lipcomb. Or comb the lips. Who knows? And on that note, it's been fun, but I got to run. Check us out or check me out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, iTunes. Or email us at theshopreport365@gmail.com. Or, as I said earlier, you can email the shop's Facebook fan page at the Shop Report. And if that don't work, as always, you can Google it. I'm Barbershop Jay, and this was the Shop Report. And, of course, the March Madness Busted Bracket First Round Breakdown. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla!